Oh, welcome back to a trade targets video. This is like, have you ever seen that show on ESPN with Woody Page and they have the whiteboard in the background where what's it called again? Around the Horn?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that's what this is not going to be. So don't think that again. So we are back doing what we did a couple of weeks ago where we're looking on Fantasy Calc, which is a free resource for you guys to use. We'll link that down below. And basically they pull in API through Sleeper and a lot of other useful league data that tells you the players that are currently involved in the highest percentage of trades. So we're talking about the guys that you're probably either trading for or guys are sending trade offers to, from in between, backwards, upwards, downwards, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about the most traded players and our current stances on them now. A little twist on today's video. Got some whiteboards. We've got some accessories. Now, me and J-Mo both have one. What we're going to do as we go down the list of each player is write a quick buy, sell. You want to throw a hold in there too? Or
I was going to ask.
I think we probably should. So we're going to give a buy, a sell, a hold. Always make sure we're dialed in no matter what direction we're going with it. And we're going to flip them up at the same time and then either argue or agree or make points for, against, all that kind of shit. All right? So y'all are ready to go. We're ready to go.
Let's cook.
Gut, hit the intro. First guy up on this league who is involved in 5% of trades. Now, this is data that's probably over the last week or so. So obviously this has come before the breakout game he just had where he ran for about $1.72 or $1.80 or something like that. Had a monster breakout game against Denver. Everybody saw it coming except for me on Deal or No Deal, but that's neither here nor there. Breece Hall, 5% traded.
This is before week 5?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'm assuming there aren't a ton of people trading him after week 5.
Fair.
Unless maybe you. Ready?
Feels like trivia.
It does. He's a hold for me.
We're on similar stance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a guy.
I think he's a buy, in my opinion, because this week he plays the Eagles. They give up the second fewest fantasy points.
Bang.
And I think the hype's going to die down a little bit. The Jets are going to get a reality check again. Boom. Right after week 6, he will be on the market at a solid price.
Super fair point. I was thinking about that, but I almost feel like, I don't know, if you drafted Breece and then you held him on your team for this long and then you saw last week, you're seeing like what's to come, you know? It doesn't feel like a 1 week buy window, but that is a good point. It's kind of like
it's all about, it's just scheduling matters to an extent.
Scheduling definitely matters. Timing definitely matters. Coming off this game, though, for me, if I'm a Breece Hall owner, I'm just going to ride the wave here. He looks like he's back to pre-ACL form, which is incredible given the timetable.
Cook's taking nothing from him. It's over.
Dude.
It never was, but it's over.
Yeah, I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, but like, I don't know if you could name a less impactful player in the NFL at this point than Dalvin Cook.
And they gave him, it wasn't big money, but still $6 million or whatever it was.
It's like $6 to $8 million. Yeah. Incentives even more than that. The amount of like buzz around that entire situation relative to what it's become. He did not do the running back position any service by the way that he's playing right now. And like this is the last bag he'll ever catch. Everything else has got a hole in it and it's dropping through. So Breece Hall is just the guy that you want on your team. The speed, I think they clocked him at like 22 miles an hour, which was as fast as he was pre-ACL, if not faster. And
it was true to the extent of like he's not limited anymore as far as management goes or load management goes.
That was my biggest concern. Was like, okay, when the game script goes sour, do they lean on Breece Hall again? They fucking should.
I will say this, Elijah Vera-Tucker, he is the highest graded run blocker on the team.
He's out for the season.
And he's good in general. He's top 16 in the league.
He's a good player.
Per PFF. Not everything, something.
Okay. I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of running backs can only go as far as the line pushes. So yeah. Breece is so explosive, though. I don't know if, when he came out of college, he wasn't necessarily like a huge breakaway guy. And then he went to the combine, ran like a 4.38 or something.
It's quick.
Yeah. And then in my mind, I was like, okay, I think it's some of that like Indy turf because everybody was running like a 4.35 that day at the combine. But Breece's breakaway potential is.
I thought when he was coming out, he was going to go to Miami. And then he just went pretty early.
Every single cool running back was like reported to go to Miami for like a 3-year period.
As far as speed goes, I thought that was going to be a good spot for him.
Well, what I said in the stream yesterday was almost like Breece Hall feels like at this point when you're watching him, almost like just a 215-pound version of Devon Achane. He just breaks away. Like you give him 10 carries, he's a big dude, but like he moves so smooth. Yes,
I will say.
Case in point, he's just not a sell.
The big breakaway, it really didn't feel like he was blazing past guys, but no one was catching him.
He moves a lot quicker than it looks like he is. All right, Raheem Mostert. This should be an interesting one.
This is a complicated one.
Ready?
Yeah.
I kind of wrote 2, but
I got.
hold by.
I think you just got to squeeze the lemon as much as you can on this one.
I feel like this is going to be a lemon that doesn't go sour anytime soon.
I agree until it does hit that deep end fantasy playoffs. At that point, though, you're in it, and everyone's got a puncher's chance. Regardless of your team, you're in the playoffs. You just need a couple guys to have a good days, and he could get you there, and that's what matters.
So Raheem Mostert, situation is weird. There's obviously a lot of moving parts right now. We might even know more by the time you guys see this video. We're filming it on Tuesday afternoon. It'll go live Wednesday around like noon, I think. So we have Devon Achane, who's probably out for multiple weeks with the knee injury.
And every headline is like not season ending, but it's like several weeks. So it's like,
is it? You're getting that vibe?
Yeah, it's like,
okay. So it's definitely worse than originally anticipated. If it's an MCL sprain though, that's not too severe. He can come back and be fine with it. I do wonder if there's any like ankle mechanism involved, because that's what I heard from like Twitter doctors. But the other part of this is Jeff Wilson. So Jeff Wilson was supposed to come back week 5 from IR. They didn't even open up the 21-day practice window, which was weird.
That was odd.
Right?
Because now it's like, okay, we'll open it up now. It's like,
right. And does that mean he returns to practice? That means he has 21 days to return to practice. Yeah. He could return week 6. He could return week 8. I would say if they open up the practice window, that does mean that they believe he could return within the next like 2 to 3 weeks. But I still think he's got to get ramped up.
I agree. And we talk so much how in the running backs, it's just about who's got the hot hand in the running back market and momentum, and Raheem has not lost.
I think we're forgetting how good Raheem looked over the first month because of how good Achane looked.
Yeah, it was insane. He scored in like 4 to 5 games.
Yeah,
I think he's got the.
I mean, last week he was like the secondary
tied for the
piece.
most touchdowns or something like that.
He's like the RB6 right now. Yeah. I think last week he had like a bad week because Achane was like the 1, but he had 16 half PPR fantasy points. I feel like that's almost like whoever the starting running back in Miami is almost guaranteed a touchdown, and then if you break away a big play, you're going to go for like 18 points.
Especially against Carolina this week, it's over.
I think you could sell your league all these like fake narrative storylines about why Mostert's not going to be a good player for like the rest of the year. But even if Achane is back week like 8, 9, 10, Mostert still feels like a great RB2.
By then, he doesn't need another week to ramp up. And it's like we're just constantly kicking this rock down the road. And it's like, Mostert, we got a good 11 weeks out of the whole season. That's pretty good.
Yeah, speaking of another dude who is now taking the back seat to someone returning, Mr. Puka Nacua, involved in 4% of trades. Cooper Kupp came back. Puka still had a good week.
Yeah, this one's tough. I think it's tough.
Okay.
Oh, like I said, I don't know what I want to put. Feels boring, but I think it's the right move.
Yeah. My strategy more often than not, I know this is a trade target show, but when I have good players on my fantasy team, I'm not always just looking to trade them. If I say a guy's a hold, that does mean I lean way more towards like buy him, go get him if you can. Puka seems fine.
And this whole like sell him at the peak value thing, it's like it's so much easier said than done. Like if Puka's just constantly going to be good, it's like
he's running every route.
His peak
with
value
Kupp
would have been at the beginning of the season when he was coming off of waivers. Like,
yeah, I will say like his weekly ceiling probably now shifts, or his weekly floor I would say shifts, because we're not going to guarantee 10 catches or a touchdown. Yes. I think there will be games where Cooper Kupp is the one that scores 2 touchdowns and Puka doesn't catch any.
But this Rams team, I don't remember before the season you gave a Lions comp. Well, it might have been the Rams, where it's like an offense that's going to constantly be chasing and it's going to be a good offense with the defense. Was it the Rams?
Yeah, I think so.
That's coming into complete fruition.
That's why I was so high on Cooper Kupp, because Kupp, prior to the injury, Kupp was like, I threw him in my rankings over Ja'Marr Chase. It was like J-Jeff, Cooper Kupp. It's because the Rams defense is so bad. But I was like, if Stafford can stay healthy, they're just going to sling the ball 45 times a game.
At this point, you could group Puka in with that T. Higgins, Evans, Lockett, wide receiver 2 on his own team guy, where he's going to put up numbers and still going to be producing for your team.
I'm interested to see what happens. They played Philly this previous week. So Kyren, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone that he had a down game. They still tried to involve him really heavily, and he still out-carried Ronnie Rivers, I think, 13-1. Yeah. So I want to see what happens in a game where it's a Kyren script and Kupp and Puka are both healthy. I want to see if
that's going to happen probably this week.
Right. I want to see if Puka's involvement falls off and like Kupp becomes the guy, almost similar to what we're seeing with like Tyreek Waddle and all the running backs being healthy. Like Tyreek is clearly like the alpha there.
I think they really just, you've said it 100 times, he's going to just become Robert Woods, and it might be oversimplifying it, but
dude, they saw, I think it was
they just got rid of Van Jeff too. That unlocks so many more targets.
Van Jeff's now going to be a Super Bowl champ, 2-time Super Bowl champ. They saw, I think, 23 Kupp and Puka combined for 23 of 47 targets. There's like 65% of the targets
It's
there.
nuts.
I think it's going to be a normal occurrence. I think at this point, Cooper Kupp is probably back to being a high-end wide receiver 1. Puka, though, top 15 guy week out.
Kind of the thing, though, how I was saying maybe buy Breece after this week. Could this be a buying window for Puka after a Kyren Williams game?
If you see a down game from him, that wouldn't discourage me
They play Arizona this week.
Yeah.
They could, depending on which Arizona we get, which Rams we get, they could run up the score. It could be just a game where they don't need to use Puka like that.
Yeah. We'll see. I would be fine buying him if he has a down game this week. Jaylen Waddle's the next guy on this list. We kind of brought him up a couple times. Let's start with that conversation right there. Who would you rather have rest of season, Puka or Waddle?
I'm such a Waddle homer. I think I got to go with him.
I think the smart play is Puka. I think
it's definitely safer.
I think best case scenario with Waddle is like we're hoping that he does what Puka does every week, 7 for 75 and a touchdown.
From what we've actually seen, like if you could just go off of these guys from this season, this would be like a stupid pick for me to say Waddle. I'm really going off of name value and just assuming it'll pick up after last year eventually.
You're just going to go Waddle every week, and then he's going to have a 6 for 175. Yeah. 2 touchdown games soon.
He'll probably do it once or twice, and I just got to ride that high while it lasts. But
okay, let's talk Jaylen Waddle. Let's go.
Damn, really? I got hold.
He's a sell for me at this point. I think we've kind of seen what this offense is now. And while he's like so explosive, he's now like the 3rd or 4th most explosive guy. And we'll obviously see big games out of him.
Do you think Achane going down helps him?
Probably. I think like the sneaky part of why that helps everybody on the offense is
it just spreads it out.
It's more plays.
Yeah.
Because they keep scoring on like 70-yard plays. So like they'll put up 40 points, but they'll run 50 plays because they score every 3 plays.
Waddle, I think, led the team in targets in week 5.
It was like 10 targets, 35 yards.
That's nothing to flex if it turned into 5 receptions for 35. But
I do want to.
The workload is still there.
I want to check something real quick.
I feel like we need more Dolphins-Chargers games where like someone could go toe-to-toe with the Dolphins. We need a good game from Miami where it's like a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Waddle's still performing really well, over 2 yards per out run. I think the problem is his ADOT is back down to like 9, where it was his rookie year, and all the deep shots are going to Tyreek Hill, or they're just big plays on the ground, which has kind of become a problem.
In his rookie year, it was okay because he was absorbed.
He was a volume guy, record. Right? Because they didn't have Tyreek Hill. Exactly. Tyreek Hill shows up, and then he's a monster, but they use Waddle downfield.
Waddle mid?
No, definitely not, unless I'm not sure. But I don't know.
I was really like going into this year, it's like, okay, rookie year, he absorbed all the work. Second year, he was super efficient, not as much work. Can he now capitalize on both? And now it's like, oh, he's doing neither.
He's doing neither. So, next year, it'll be back to both. Yeah. I don't know. I actually kind of feel like the public saying sell Waddle because we've seen him be bad now, and now would be the time to buy him. I think if you looked at it, I think maybe what would help, an exercise that would help is objectively just now look at the team situation going forward. Kind of like rid your mind of the last 4 or 5 weeks and say, Miami, know what we know, really high-scoring offense, great scheme, Devon Achane is hurt. Maybe that's enough to be like, okay, Waddle's back, but I don't know. I think I would take Puka over Waddle the rest of the season. That might be a horrible take.
I think I'd still go with Waddle. I don't know. It's tough. The 1 week sample size of having Puka and Kupp together, it's just not enough because it went so well. It's like so easy.
It was like the perfect matchup. It was kind of like the perfect storm of how that would work. So this is exactly what we expected, and it just fucking happened. We'll see. What if next week Puka leads the team in like targets and yards and receptions?
Like, holy shit!
All right, JT obviously returned from injury off of IR.
Oh, this feels gross.
Got a hold/sell.
I think while AR is out, Moss is still going to eat for a week or two, I believe. But once AR comes back, I think they're going to be a very efficient team, and he's going to get the work that we've been looking for. They just gave him that bag. Like, I know Moss has been good, but there's just no way in my mind. Maybe I'm playing a little too political with it.
Let me ask you 2 questions then. How many more weeks? All right, week 6 is this upcoming week, so that counts as 1. How many more weeks until Jonathan Taylor outsnaps Zack Moss? Because this week it was like 87% Moss still, and JT was like 15. It was not good. How many more weeks?
I think it might be 2 more, like week 8.
And then Anthony Richardson's injury feels like best case scenario, he's back on the field like 10.
Oh, you think it's a month?
4 weeks? I think minimum 4 weeks.
Oh, he's on IR, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I don't. Did they put him on IR? I'm not sure. I think they're seeing. I think they're Jay Jettis definitely is, but they're putting. I think they're letting A-Rich see a few different specialists, and they'll have to decide before this weekend, obviously, so the game counts towards it. But I think it was a grade 3 AC sprain, which is usually anywhere from like 4 to 8 weeks. I know there are people that are concerned that it's going to linger for the year. I'm almost like at this point when I'm factoring in JT, I'm not really factoring in Anthony Richardson as like the upside thing.
I would agree to an extent. I don't know. Because the game against the Baltimore, they won. Gardner was in. And that was Moss's day, right? Where he really popped on the scene.
Every day is fucking, it's Moss's world. We're just living in it, dude.
They need to get their money back for JT.
Facts. What's the refund policy?
Give him his guarantee and cut the loss.
I will say, though, Moss, like the player that Moss is and what they just gave JT, Moss has one bad game and it's probably over. Like, luck is pulled on him. But he's just been so good. It's almost like now, if he continues to play at that level, they'll just really slowly get JT back into shape.
They played Jacksonville this week. And this is two different plays, but they just held James Cook to negative rushing yards. So it's like, Jack's got a good rushing defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we could see it switch sooner than later, but
it's just going to be a slow ramp up regardless. Like, even if Zack Moss is playing bad, I still think that the ramp up for
it's probably going to be like the Breece Hall thing where we're just annoyed.
When's the last time JT played? Because he missed like the end of last year or no? Was the surgery only in the offseason? I don't actually remember.
His last game might have been that Vikings comeback game. Remember that?
Wasn't that the playoffs?
Vikings versus Colts.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Matt Ryan blew like a 30-point lead. I think that was his last game.
I bet on that at halftime for them to win. Yeah, and then I sold out with like 4 minutes left. Yeah, it was so sad. I remember watching it here and losing my fucking mind.
But I also think just with all the concerns about ramping up, I think a lot of people, that's not just something me and you are concerned about. I think even common fantasy people are concerned about that. That opens up the buying window.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's something to keep a really close eye on is just make sure that the snap counts are like steadily increasing, goes from 15% up to 30%, up to 40%, up to 60%. It's almost, but I guess my concern is like if they're not competing for a playoff spot, which they very well might be, it's almost like Boss has been good enough to just have that be a committee for the rest of the year in a sense. Fair. You know, if JT's not getting all the work, it makes it a little bit suspect over there.
Just let him build up gradually over the whole year.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, based on like his outlook going into the year, it's not like people drafted him top 12 or anything, right? Like he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, so it's not like you're losing a ton of value on him. So I guess you could be in worse spots to just kind of hold out and see what happens there. Rhamondre, you could definitely be in better spots if you're a Rhamondre owner. At this point, I don't really know what you can get from him if you tried to sell him, but
this is my boy from last week. You remember?
You called it. Sucks when you're like, oh, buy him after this shitty week, then the shitty week happens, and you're like, I don't want him anymore because the thing that I said was going to happen happened.
Yeah, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
It's just, the Patriots are so bad. They're so bad.
Right. Go off.
He's RB26, and I feel like he feels like he's outside the top 40.
He's RB26?
Yeah.
How?
Exactly. He's still top 16 in touches. No, he's not good, okay? You shouldn't have drafted him in the first 5 rounds, but I think he could still finish as an RB2.
I don't know if I see that path. How does he get there?
Volume alone. Because I will say the touchdowns aren't there for the whole offense.
Right.
The receiving game isn't really what we want.
He's not really catching that many passes. He's making no explosive plays.
I am just banking on the Patriots going from the worst team in the NFL to can they be below average. I'm not asking for them to turn it around completely, not even be decent, just be a little bit more Patriot-like.
All right, well, let's give some maybe let's think of some players that we could move Stevenson for. If I'm going to try to sell him, I'm probably looking in with trading.
Like, would you rather Najee or Stevenson?
Oh God,
because someone asked in the Discord about the team, and he asked me about Stevenson because he knew I said to buy him after the week, and I saw he had Najee on his team. I'm like, I'm willing to take that swap.
Oh God, yeah, I never make lateral moves like that. I would never be like trade a running back who both have the same fucking outlook. Dude, I don't know if I could answer that question.
I don't like the 4-for-4s either.
I think Rhamondre is better than Najee. I think the Steelers' outlook on offense is kind of better than the Patriots' outlook on offense. Jaylen Warren scares me more than Zeke scares me. So it's like back and forth again. Like whoever's on my team, I'm just probably going to keep. I don't really care for doing the swaps. I guess I would take Rhamondre over Stevenson rest of season. I never really do lateral moves like that. If I'm trying to do a 1-for-1, it's probably a position swap. So if I'm a Rhamondre owner, the guys that I would be targeting, I would look.
If you're trying to sell him?
Yeah, I would look at those like low-end wide receiver 2s probably. Even a dude like maybe Dobbs plus. I like Dobbs, he's coming off a really shitty game. I think everyone like hates Jordan Love right now. I would look for something that if you can get someone who has a lesser name value.
Dobbs, Michael Wilson.
Other say less. Both of them. Like a Dobbs Tutu maybe. If people hate Tutu with Puka coming back, I think Tutu has good games ahead. You know, those are guys like you need some depth here with the bye weeks coming up and injuries and all that kind of stuff. So I would look to make swaps like that if you could.
Or like, what about like Dotson?
His name came to mind, but right now I don't think he almost feels like the Rhamondre of wide receivers.
That's fair.
I'm good on Dotson right now. But like maybe you could flip Rhamondre for Zack Moss if you're a JT owner. Do you think anyone would do that? There's so much uncertainty around Moss.
I think I would. Rest of the season, I think I'd go Rhamondre.
I think I'd take Moss. I know we're getting at least one more good game out of Moss.
You're going to dominate me in the next month in that deal.
I know I'm getting one good game out of Moss this season. Fair. I don't know if I'm getting another good game out of Stevenson.
One's more than none at this
the rest
point.
of this week. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs, next up on the list.
I just made a video on him today.
What did you say?
Video was the 3 biggest busts in fantasy.
It's a hold. David Montgomery's really good. We know what role he's going to be used in. Jahmyr Gibbs never going to have that role.
No.
I still do think he'll have valuable games going forward.
How is he'll be back this week?
I don't know.
Him and Amon just came out of nowhere. Like they're both out. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I just think this team is so good, and
Dude,
I think
they're
going to be like humming at one point, like down the stretch. I think they're going to get really, really good, and Gibbs' big games will come with that. He almost kind of feels like the fucking Tutu Atwell of running backs right now, dude. It's kind of gross.
Do you think he could be like a McKinnon last year? He just has this dummy 2 receiving touchdown game, and it's like
no, because when Detroit gets inside the 10, it's fucking it's Demont. But when KC gets down there, it's always passing. Yeah, I mean, seen an explosive play from Gibbs. Would he have like a 20-yard run? I think against the Chiefs too, week 1 maybe.
Yeah.
Regardless though, like 4.36. That's what he ran at the combine. We were expecting 40, 50, 60-yard plays.
Yeah. Has
not happened whatsoever. So like, I'd like to see his floor. I don't even really know if his floor or ceiling on a week-to-week basis are really that good.
He's like RB33 right now.
RB33. He doesn't get that many carries. He never gets goal line carries.
Yeah.
There are games where he has like 2 fucking targets too, which is kind of a shame. But
it's a little odd because like he'd be perfect for the reason they needed him last year. Down at the end, just need a perfect 3rd down back or crunch time back, and they just don't need that now when they're always leading and always winning.
And I was saying this in the preseason with DeAndre Swift. Everyone's like, if Gibbs can be DeAndre Swift in terms of receptions, I was like, yeah, but the Lions were just down 30 every game last year. 2-minute, 4-minute drills was just Swift soaking up bullshit targets.
And even
they're always winning now.
Tampa this
motherfucker
week,
don't miss.
Interesting game.
All right, so I filtered down Sleeper's leaderboard basically to flex. No QBs involved. Jahmyr Gibbs is the 107th best fantasy player right now in half PPR. Probably be a little bit higher, but he's lower than guys like Robert Woods, Alan Lazard,
that's ridiculous.
Nick Westbrook-Akini, Khalif Raymond, Jonnu the GOAT. Yeah, it's bad. Rest of season.
This is based on what?
Half PPR.
Based on
just
rankings?
Like fantasy stats for the year.
Points? Holy shit.
He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. It's 31.9 points. Rest of season.
Gibbs or Rhamondre?
At that point, I'd probably take Gibbs.
I'd stick with Gibbs.
Gibbs or Jaylen Warren?
Warren's doing decent. I think I'm giving Gibbs.
Both fucking useless.
I know. I'm giving Gibbs so much name value. And I like.
Warren, if he wasn't a top 12 pick.
I want to say, off the top of my head, Warren's got the 2nd most targets out of the running backs.
Maybe.
He might be tied with someone, is what it is.
He's really good.
Jacobs has the most. I think Warren has 25 targets. Jacobs has
I do
30.
wonder coming off the bye. So they were like, we need to change things in Pittsburgh. I wonder if coming off the bye next week, if Warren becomes like the 1A to Najee's 1B.
I will say it's not like, while he looks better than Najee, it's not like he's this monster. Like, he's not the most efficient on the ground. He's just like averaging less than 4 yards.
Yeah. No, he's just a little bit more explosive. He gives them a little bit of pop, better in the passing game. All right, 2 more. Jahmyr Gibbs or Josh Palmer?
I got to go Gibby.
I think I would take Palmer there.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's
the Chargers oddly like him.
They love him.
They do.
I'm almost like, I was going to ask KJ Osborne too, with Justin Jefferson on IR. They're like the same player where like their teams just love them for no reason. So they're going to see a floor of like 7 targets a game. I don't know if I'd actually go that far, but like I'd definitely think about it.
I feel like, and I'm getting into just Jameson being Spears here. I feel like the Chargers might make a move for
wide receiver.
Yeah.
Why not just
trust QJ?
Why not post by? Yeah, just like implement QJ into their offense.
Just because it seems like they don't want to.
It would feel crazy if they went out of their way to trade for a player rather than use their 1st-round pick in a higher capacity.
Fair.
They should have traded for Van Jeff, honestly. All right, Chris Olave, number 8.
Chrissy Poo. Bye.
Bye for show.
10-plus targets, first 3 games. Derek Carr got hurt. He hasn't done shit. Carr's going to get healthier.
To me, this is all about Carr and Olave's health.
Yeah.
I will say I don't know a lot about where Ridley or Olave's health stands right now.
Mm-hmm.
He had like the pregame injury, played a little bit, but clearly hampered by it. My concern is definitely Derek Carr, but Derek Carr will get healthier by the week with his shoulder. So as that ramps back up,
I think this is the worst we've seen.
100%.
That it'll be.
It might be another 2 weeks of like down play for Olave, but I think when it matters over the last 6 weeks of the season, Olave is going to be a stud for you. Yeah. Calvin Ridley.
Really?
I have him as a sell. Dude, I don't know. That Jacksonville team just spreads the ball around really well. He'll have good games like he did, but I almost feel like
I think that's what I'm accepting. I just gonna have to start him every week and hope it's the week.
But I wonder if you could sell him really, really high. That's kind of the reason why
I was thinking you won't be able to get great value.
Maybe.
That was my mindset.
I would throw Calvin Ridley on the trade block and see what you can get for him. Just because coming off a big game, everyone's like, okay, now Jacksonville's like kind of humming again. But next week it could be Zay Jones again. It could be Christian Kirk again. They got Ingram, ETN could have a day. Like, they have a lot of really good weapons. So I think we're going to see a lot of inconsistency with Ridley.
And even inconsistency on whether or not the Jaguars are having a good day seems like an issue as well.
I wonder if you could flip Ridley for like Eckler because Eckler's missed so much time. Like that I would do in a heartbeat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And even if you have to go like Ridley and, I don't know, fucking Zack Moss for Eckler, like that's something I would be really interested in doing. Obviously, that's like a tier up. But now's the time where, like, coming off a big game, like Ridley just did, people are back in on him.
I'm trying to think of other player comps. Like Ridley or Waddle the rest of the way. I think Ridley's probably valued higher, for sure. And that's another 1-for-1 lateral.
So, yeah, it's another, like, lateral move, right? Again, that's just, like, whoever's
Feels
on
like
my
a
team
coin
is the one I'm
toss.
probably holding. I might sound crazy, but I think I'd actually go Waddle there. I don't know. Ridley, I feel like we've seen enough games where he just kind of, like...
Do you think he like,
disappears?
Is the Jags wide receiver 1 by the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. But I think it won't. I don't think we'll see that each week, though. I think they kind of just take what's given to them.
Yeah.
Slightly, maybe Waddle. I don't know if I had Ridley and I was offered that trade, I don't know if I'd make the move. But again, I'm with the lateral 1-for-1s. If I feel like they're the same player if we're just flipping a coin, being like, hopefully he performs better than him, I just typically don't make the move.
I don't know. I think you just got to take. It sucks if you maybe reached on him and you took him at like an early second round, but kind of what you just bought into at this point.
Zack Moss, number 10.
This is tough.
No, it's not. By the fuck.
Really, you're gonna buy him?
I'm sending Calvin Ridley for him.
I kind of see him just kind of like.
I think he's a must buy if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner.
That's fair.
I think you should like give away a decent player to get him.
Really, for rest.
Dude, he's been like a week winner for like 3 weeks in a row.
That's fair.
He's been really good, and again, I think this makes the runway for Jonathan Taylor to come back like a really slow one.
Rest of the season, would you rather Moss or Jerome Ford?
Probably Jerome Ford. I feel more secure in like what his backfield outlook will be for the whole season. I think he'll be like the 1A there at worst, whereas Moss will, I'm sure, eventually flip Taylor. But if you can give a wide receiver 3 or something for...
I'm just in a tough... And maybe this is the wrong mentality to have. I think it's like if I trade for a guy and he's probably not going to be starting my lineup for the fantasy football playoffs, what am I doing?
That's fair.
But to counterpoint myself, I did say earlier, Raheem Mostert could be the guy that gets you to the playoffs. And that time around, maybe H-Hand's back and you're not even using them. So
yeah, I'm kind of good just like figuring it out as I go along, just taping shit together, honestly.
Hoping shit works, throwing it against the wall.
I'll say, like, I'm looking at the receivers. Wouldn't give up Gabe Davis for Zack Moss. Probably wouldn't give up George Pickens for Zack Moss. Hollywood Brown I'd hold on to.
Hollywood's been eating. Him and Gabe putting up tutties.
Actually, I don't know how far I'd go with buying Zack Moss. Now that I'm looking at the list. Hank Dell, no. Tutu. Tutu's a guy I would
take
give.
Moss over Tutu.
If I had JT, for sure. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Dobbs is a guy I'd be okay giving up for Zack Moss.
Do you think Kyler plays
this year?
Yeah. The video for this, but because I was doing a best ball and I was like, is he?
Yeah, I think he steps back on the field at some point.
Okay.
I can't give you. I wouldn't put money on it being more than like 4 games. If the over under was set at 3.5, I'd be hesitant to take the over on it.
I would take the under for sure.
Yeah. I think he wants to get back on the field really badly. I think it could get messy in Arizona like the end of the year, just between like PR and him wanting to get back on. And
even if he comes back and they're 0-3 still, like for sure.
All right, who do you want to talk about?
Jay Jettas. Just assuming, let's say he's back in 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
Off
if you're 5-0 or 4-1, like, I mean, he might be on your team.
Like I got offered in my league. I have him. I got offered DK Metcalf for him. I declined it.
I think I probably would too, but I guess it would depend on what my.
I'm doing bad. I'm like 1-4 now.
Really?
Yeah.
I would think about that. Who are your other wide receivers?
I have Waddle and Ridley.
Okay.
And
What about your flex?
This is tough because I think this is a league where I had.
Is your team bad or are you just unlucky right now?
I think I'm a little unlucky. Like, those are good receivers. Jettas, Ridley, Waddle, my tight ends, TJ, my quarterback's Herbert, but my running backs are pretty mid. So I might want to maybe move Jefferson for that. I think I got Javonte. Sorry, I'm in like 6 leagues. I'm trying to think. No, Javonte, Brian Robinson.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that team should be better than 1 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the move wide receiver because you can throw a flex play in there. Like, that's no problem with me, but obviously you need some more help at running back. I mean, I'm really only making that move. I am such an injury pessimist that, like, I'm not going out of my way to buy guys who are hurt. The only way I make that move is if I feel so comfortable with my team and I have a ton. Like, if you hit on, your.
It felt like a fair offer. Like, that's a big name.
100%.
Yeah.
I almost feel like they're probably overpaying in a sense, given the situation right now. If you hit on like your 7th, 9th, and 12th round picks or something like that, and they end up being guys who everyone is starting, but now you have so much depth, I got no problem with that. If you're like a starting player and a bench player and you could flip them for Jefferson, I'm cool with that. But if you're giving up too much of guys that are going to impact your lineup right now, we don't know when he's going to be back.
Yeah. And
you got put on the IR immediately. That's like a pretty severe fucking hamstring.
I will say though, that's pretty serious. I think it just applies to a lot of people rather than just myself because everyone drafted Jay Jettas this year and they're all like, what the hell do I do now? So
I would really consider that offer.
It just kind of depends on your record, you think, for most people?
If you have a cushion, if you have a lot of depth, I need to feel really comfortable. I'm not going out on a limb to trade for J. Jeff. That's why I look at like injuries. Like, if anything, like holding me back, like pulling me back, saying like, this is like way too risky, throwing risk on top of a risky situation, I'm not good with that.
Fair.
Kyren Williams, I just want to touch on. Every single down week he has is a buy opportunity. Okay. I think like right now, coming off the Philly game, again, he's controlling like 95% of the backfield work, goal line, pass catching, all of it. I don't care how inefficient he is on the ground. I think he's going to have at least like 2 to 3 more multi-touchdown games rest of the year.
You think you're not concerned about how much they pass? They pass the most. I almost last week asked you, like, how do I sell them? And you're like, don't. I was trying to come up with a reason to.
Don't. When they're not playing against Philly or they're not playing against like the Niners or some shit, he's going to keep eating. That's fair.
Cardinals this week?
Go.
This is not a good bye week. You're going to pay a lot. All right, take us away.
Go away.
Okay, that's our trade show. Make sure to sub. Make sure to give us some love. Give us some words.
Relax. Way too far.
Peace.